Hiring the right people means that you get people that share the same mindset. They join not because the salary or because wherever place you work, but because they share the vision and they share the mission. With COVID, agencies who did not implement a digital approach just run out of business. Right?
Yeah.
We're advocating for a model that really can be duplicated. If they want to be in the winning side, they have to make it free and make it respectful, and then you solve half of the challenge. A social impact business must be a profitable business. The vision that we have is we will never be everywhere. We want that ethical hiring becomes the de facto solution. One reason why we got successful is that
for many Singapore households, there remains an urgent need for live-in domestic help, and the number of such families is set to rise, given the demographic and social trends. Today, we have with us David Bensadon, the co-founder and managing director of We Are Caring, an ethical employment agency for domestic helpers. Supported by DBS Foundation and Raise Singapore with the mission to provide ethical hiring for all, David wants to revamp the way domestic helpers are hired by promoting debt-free recruitment globally, eradicating salary deductions for migrant workers. In this episode, we talk about the common issues that employers and domestic helpers face in Singapore. How does We Are Caring create impact for its beneficiaries who are primarily migrant workers? And how being an ethical employer is good for business. Hi, David.
Hi, Eric.
Thanks so much for joining us in this podcast. Really happy and excited to find out more about We Are Caring, the business that you have co-founded, as well as your mission, your personal mission in setting up this social enterprise, right? What is keeping you busy lately?
Hi, Eric. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you, JC, as well, and the entire team. I'm very excited about this conversation. What keeps me busy recently? I guess a lot of things, right? So we're a 6-year-old startup, right? A social impact startup, and we're very lucky because we are growing fast, right? It's about 100% growth year per year, despite the COVID.
Yeah.
And with that growth comes some unique challenges in terms of how you're gonna build the team and how you're gonna restructure whether the departments or the internal organizations, what tools you're going to implement, right? And you have to deal with this at the same time, right? So the challenge for a first-time entrepreneur is how you do it well.
How do you scale? Because a one-person business is different from a 10-person business and is different from 100.
Absolutely. So we were, I think, 5 people about 18 months ago. Now we are 15.
Wow, congratulations.
So we continue to hire and scaling is tough, right? But so far we're working on that. So how do we solve that? Some digitalization, some automation, probably hires a different kind of people, like not only junior people that are amazing, but also some senior level people, and trying to find the balance between the entire group so that everybody's happy and everybody works well.
That is like the growth pains that you have to go through to get things off the ground, especially when there's a lot of traction now. Because because of COVID, we also shine a light on migrant workers, on domestic helpers, on the need for modern society like Singapore to have such a workforce to support, right, the population as well. Because most of us are going to work, and there's probably a need for help, for domestic help at home. So can you explain a little bit more about what is We Are Caring and how did you get it started in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So my story is that I'm a French guy who worked on public health and politics for a couple of years, and then I had the chance to do an MBA in Tel Aviv with an exchange semester at NUS for the MBA. And during my time at NUS, I looked at how do families take care of elderly people, right? Because that was my topic. And I quickly found out that, as you said, domestic workers and migrant workers are the number one option that comes to mind, right? And you realize that actually, oh, that's kind of a big market, like 250,000 migrant workers in Singapore. It's one of 4 households who have a domestic worker. And when you look into how does this work, the recruitment issue comes up very fast, right? By talking to the helpers, they're gonna tell you, hey, it costs a lot of money. I have no information about my employer beforehand, and it's not very respectful process. On the other side, the employers will tell that it's pretty a random pick. You need to get lucky, right, to have a nice helper. And crazy expensive, and a lack of transparency. So these were the feedbacks that I had before setting up We Are Caring. I set up We Are Caring because I thought that was an opportunity, right, to take action, to build something better, and also to stay in your lovely country, right? Because
fantastic.
I had a girlfriend at the time, but I really wanted to stay, and I thought I don't want to work in the corporate world. I really wanted to make an impact and trying to kind of sustain myself by doing something that has a positive impact, right? And I found that this population deserved to be helped, and it was possible to set it up in Singapore, right? So I gave it a chance.
Right. Interesting story. How do you then make money? Because as an agency, we tend to, get a part of the salary from our domestic helper to fund their transition over in Singapore. So how do you actually make your revenue?
So the recruitment model is that we connect both parties together. So we have an app where employers can sign up, check the profiles, and if they pay a small fee, they can connect and engage, start the conversation with the helpers, interview them, and then we handle the paperwork. The core principle is it's free for domestic workers. We are paid by the future employers only. Now, you're going to say, hey, I start a social impact business. I will not charge the worker, but then I'm going to have to charge you double because we're the good guys. It will not work, right? And so you had to make it whether similar pricing or even better for employers. That was our starting point. We make it free for helpers, but more affordable for employers because both sides must win something. Right? And then you have a problem because if you charge less, then you say, now my margin is lower than my competitors for the same matchmaking. Right? And so in order to rebalance that, you need to really focus on the cost side and find ways to save time, ensure quality, and being able to serve more people at the same time than your competitors. Right? So this is what we've been doing for a couple of years.
And am I right to say that the way to bring down the cost is through technology?
Yes. Okay, the first way that you bring down the cost is you hire the right people. Right? That was a pretty tough thing to do. But hiring the right people means that you get people that share the same mindset. They join not because the salary or because wherever place you work, but because they share the vision and they share the mission. And then you implement around them a way to work where you remove some kind of all the pains that they have and that prevent them from doing their best, right? And this is where automation comes. This is where, process flow. And when you look at the hiring journey, we're probably looking at that from a different point of view from other competitors, but we displayed the entire hiring journey. It's pretty huge stuff. And then you look at, okay, what can I do at that point, right? The connection at that point, the interviews at that point, confirming a job offer. How can we save time, basically, and provide more convenience for parties?
Got it. And I'm curious, what is the most common misconception of your job as well as for the agency?
Typically, I would say that the population here look at agencies are middlemen, who have a low impact on the employment, but a high impact on the hiring costs, right? So I think most of the population do not see any added value. They probably also see some shady practices.
Yeah, such as
many agencies actually overcharge, right? Whether the employer or the helpers. When they overcharge the helpers, this is something that is not legal, but it's prevalent. And as a middleman, many agents, they want to close the deal fast, and that's their main focus, right? So they are transaction based and not necessarily relationship based. Really, it's like if you look at the retention rate, the success rate of placement, right? We may talk about this later, but we have a better success rate than others, right? But it's part of their business model. That the more frequently you're going to change helper, the more cash you get. Right. And so I don't think they implemented any incentive to ensure the success of the relationship.
Either to train the helpers well or to inform the employers of what to expect.
Yes, absolutely. So you have the training and the explanation efforts before that, and then you have the mediation. Mediation is probably somewhere around 25 to 30% of our time today. So that's very significant. And we did not implement incentive where we have a high interest in changing. Right? So any change can happen for the interest of the parties, but we are not biasing all of that.
Got it. And I'm sure there's a lot of value in to be unlocked with maybe governments who want to protect the welfare of the migrant workers as well. Do you have anything to say about that?
Okay, Singapore government is leading the way in Asia on how to treat migrant workers, and probably by far. Okay, they've implemented some training for employers, training for helpers. They want to ensure that everybody knows regulations. They implemented, some mandatory checkups, and they call all the new helpers to check how they are and everything. They're doing their best to prevent abuse. They recently implemented a mandatory day off, right? It was long overdue, but finally they did it, right? But many countries do not have such regulation. There are more steps to be taken, but Singapore, if you look at the area, if you look at the Middle East, actually they're quite good. Philippines, Indonesia, they do want to protect their workers. I'm not sure how they sometimes do it. Their challenge is, how do you ensure protection when the worker is not in your own territory, right? So you need to cooperate with other governments. The Philippines has been the most proactive government to protect their own workers, implementing, a specific employment contract, specific rights. The enforcement is sometimes to be discussed. And the Indonesia government is kind of following the same path, right? But they're a bit behind. But I think also they push for more ethical hiring, lower fees, no fees, right? So now we are at a point where governments say there should be no fees. How do you check that? That's still an open question. But how do you impact an entire industry? That's a tough challenge, I think, that they're facing at the moment.
How do you think your company is being seen by your peers in the industry? Because you are so radical in terms of your social impact initiatives and business model, right? So how do you think they see you?
Okay, when I set up We Are Caring, 2016, I thought, okay, I'm going to set up a business model where free for workers, affordable for employers, a bit of tech on the way, and everybody will copy. Right? I was convinced that I didn't have a competitive advantage because it's
low barrier to entry.
Exactly, and it was obvious that it would work.
Probably want to protect their own margin as well.
Yeah, I mean, they are not keen to implement some new things, right? And as long as they can sustain themselves, I think they are good. COVID changed that.
Okay.
So with COVID, agencies who did not implement a digital approach just run out of business. Right? And I think it's about 25 to 30% of agencies that really stopped operating from 2020. Now we are part of the Association of Employment Agencies. I cannot say that we have great relationship. We mostly have no relationship with other agents, but we're pushing for and we're advocating for a model that really can be duplicated. And if they want to be in the winning side, in a few years they have to copy or they have to do better than us. Right?
Yeah, that is how disruptive businesses create impact at the same time change business models, hopefully for the better. And in your case, I believe that this is a wonderful initiative that you have, that is to relieve the financial burden of migrant workers, because honestly, comparatively, they might not be paid a lot, right? And to take away more from them, that will be ethically questionable. What challenges have you faced in terms of implementing your technology in the provision of digital service to both employers and domestic helpers?
In terms of tech, we for a long time we had a website that we custom created, and we recently switched to a mobile app that is, the best mobile app I think for domestic workers worldwide, to remove the barriers. Some challenges that we faced. I remember at the time when I told the helpers for the first time, hey, you're gonna sign up online, and I've created like a great access for helpers. We were asking them for an email and password. You had like 60 or 70% that were not able to, mention their email address.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so the problem of some domestic workers a few years back was that they discovered internet when they got a smartphone that they purchased, and they asked, please set up Facebook. So then they discovered internet with Facebook on a phone, right? To communicate, of course, with their family back home and Messenger. Right? But you're gonna note a few things. They never use emails. If they have an email address, and they all have, because you need one, right?
Yeah,
to have an Android, right? You have one. But so if you know your email address, probably you don't know how to use an email. But if you know your email address and you know how to use an email, you probably, most of the time, they don't know how to set up, to reset their password, so they forgot, right? So it's really, we had the wrong assumption that it was, a common ground there.
Yeah.
So we switched to other solutions. But yeah, the many helpers, when they don't Google things, right? And so Facebook is Google. And so whatever they type, they're gonna type in the Facebook bar and then see what happened. And now they switch to TikTok. TikTok is just much more convenient because it's video based. But not a lot of them are actually able to, book a Grab, make a basic research to compare products, these kind of things, right? We reiterated multiple times to make the system easier for them. And employers, super easy. Singapore, they all have, I don't know, 1 or 2 phones. I don't know about you, but that's like digital native at heart.
Yes.
So for Singapore, you need a mobile app. You need a convenient system to just check profiles, check the screening, interview the helpers, get in touch.
So there's no problem for local users of mobile users.
Absolutely not. And we've
don't you face middle age, or elderly employers?
No, before the mobile app, so we have regularly some requests for caregivers, right? And that's usually the daughter that contacts us for her father or mother. So the daughter knows how to use the phone. So far so good. Yeah.
Do you have a case study where you can share there with our audience about a very successful placement of a domestic helper locally?
We actually provide more than 1,100 jobs per year. 75% are successful.
Wow.
So we have a lot of cases.
How do you define success?
Okay, I define it the same way as the Ministry of Manpower, which is like after 6 months, does the employment relationship is still live or not, right? And so if you change within the first 6 months, MOM consider, that's not so good, right? And so we follow the same criteria. We are placing people for, large families, and they're looking for, they're mostly looking at the personality fit with their family members. caregivers. You have some people who are desperate to get some qualified help for their parents, and they got it. We are doing our best to identify when there are caregiver needs. Somebody who gets some background training on that. We do provide people for embassies as well, or any kind of like CEO level in Singapore. We are placing sometimes people that are recommended by the Ministry of Manpower. So they contact us because they have a shelter. And you know, there are some abuse cases, right? Can be physical abuse, can be sexual abuse. We are very careful in who we're going to introduce to this helper, right? And we are very happy when they get a job and they can continue working while their case is investigated. You know, like a rape case can be pretty long in Singapore. And so we're particularly proud when we have such placements. Can tell you there's no difference between low-code and expats in terms of who is keen to hire such people. I think they are great people because they accept to be employers and also to be a point of reference. And it happens every month, right? But that's...
What are the common, I would say, requirements that you face as an agency from employers, or requirements from domestic helpers looking for their employers, potential ones?
The common request from employers, they want somebody trustable. They want somebody with good experience. They want somebody who worked for a long time for the previous employer and that they can talk with this employer. Sometimes they have like nationality criteria, but we tend to tell them that this is not verified on data. The woman is Filipino, Indonesian, or what?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Right?
Unless there's a language preference for the elderly.
Absolutely, right? Unless you're a Muslim family and you kind of more comfortable with an Indonesian who is also Muslim, so you have a cultural proximity, right? Apart from that, you know, whether you're Filipino or Indonesian, you're gonna take good care of kids or not, but it's not based on nationality. The helpers, they usually say, oh, I want to work for somebody who would consider that I'm part of the family, which is a very wrong idea. But it means I want to be comfortable with them. But when you do this, I mean, I don't have any family member that works for me at home, right? Right? And so that's not exactly the same situation, right? But they want to be well treated. They want their days off. They're going to ask, hey, is there a curfew on Sunday night? Why they have such requests about trust is because actually hiring somebody and to invite this person inside your home is a very scary thing, right? And like, she's gonna take care of your kids. Maybe they're like
when they're not around.
Exactly. I have a 1-year-old baby. You know, it's pretty tough to find somebody who will take good care of her and that you can trust, right? So that's a very important decision that they make. Helpers, they want to be treated like family. They want a day off. They don't want curfew. But you can really find great employers and bad employers in any expat or local community. Right? So we try to emphasize the quality of the relation between them. And that's a key difference. Like, imagine if you compare to traditional agencies, you're going to show up as an employer at one agency. You're going to have a sofa like that. They're going to be like 3-4 helpers, and you're going to interview them in front of the agent for maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And then you need to choose somebody, right? On our part, you can actually have a direct conversation with her, make a video call, and then decide to meet face-to-face at your place. So then you can show the environment. You have a lot of time to explore and assess if this is the right person. You can meet her 1 time, 2 times. That's so much better. So these are extra validation points. In terms of preferences, some people ask for no day off, 1 day off a month. We reject everything. Right? So we impose a weekly day off as a requirement. If you do not provide a weekly day off, you should not use We Are Caring. And we think that's also one reason why it works better.
Yes, because we understand that apart from the financial aspect of having and being a domestic helper, the idea of rest is very important for the well-being of anyone, essentially, as well. So with that in place, We Are Caring actually emphasize not only just for the welfare of the domestic helper, but you're also helping the employer make the relationship better in that sense.
Absolutely. We want that it starts in a good way, and that we can see the balance for both parties.
And how is ethical recruitment and being an ethical company good for business?
This one is easy.
Okay.
So you make it free for all helpers, right? Because you want to be an ethical guy. The recruitment industry is a two-part industry. So you have the employers and you have the helpers. Make it free and make it respectful, and then you solved half of the challenge. Right? And so this is what we had very early on, which means a lot of helpers want to use our service. They apply, and this is great because employers, they want to have choice. Right?
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of how do you attract the employers then. But some employers are very, very sensitive, and I mean, they really appreciate the ethical business model. The fact also that they do not have to pay upfront cost for the helper.
Yeah.
You have probably between 20-25% of our customers who are really using our service because this is ethical. Right? You have, I think, a stronger or let's say a more significant part that are using it because it's convenient, and this is great. And then another last part because it's more affordable, right? But the ethical recruitment model is and was and it still is a key success factor, because when other agencies have maybe like 5, 10, 15 helpers, let's say for the biggest, they probably have about 30 helpers
at the same time
at any point of time, or in Singapore, right? We're about like 200, 300. So definitely the you're gonna want to use We Are Caring because you have more choice.
Got it. Yeah. And it seems like as your business is scaling, you'll be getting more busy. And you mentioned that you also have a baby. What's motivating you these days to keep going for this, building this social enterprise?
Okay, on an everyday basis, first you're grateful because some people, some helpers or employers, they're very kind, right? So you help them and they show you that they appreciate what you do for them. That's a real boost. Actually, it's not every day, but every other day, right? And that's really, really nice. You mentioned that I have a baby. Yes, I do have a 1-year-old baby and the second on the way.
Congrats.
For end of November. We're super happy about that. So it's another kind of challenge. So you're an entrepreneur, social impact. Okay, it looks shiny. That's great. It works. It's financially sustainable. You help 1,000 to 1,001 per year. Fine. You have about 250,000 people in Singapore. So you're not really addressing the entire market at all, right? And so the scalability is about trying to really meet the challenge of helping most people in Singapore and abroad. But we also have a different kind of recognition that is also a challenge. Like We Are Caring, it's gonna be announced probably by the time that the podcast is displayed. We are getting recognized by the International Organization for Migration. So this is the United Nations as the label, the first company to receive the label of ethical recruiter.
Fantastic.
Worldwide. Okay.
Congratulations.
And so thank you very much.
In advance.
It's a tough one, but it means that we are contributing to defining the guidelines on what it means to be ethical for migrant workers. And so, of course, we have a dual challenge. One is to succeed at a bigger scale. Second is to inspire and to support people to also develop their own, to create their own ventures, social impact ventures, to do the same in their home country. Right? These are unique and very exciting challenges. Right? So it's not just about tech, it's about social impact is about success, but success is defined by more than just the bottom line of the profit, right? The bottom line of the profit matters, okay, because I have absolutely no savings. Okay, so if it goes bankrupt, I'm actually literally homeless. Okay?
Right.
So we must succeed on that, but the vision that we have is we will never be like in everywhere, right? And so we have to create a network of alliance and partners, and by working with institutions, we hope that really we can contribute to set up other companies and maybe provide mentoring. I don't know if people are interested in that, but we want that ethical hiring becomes the de facto solution, recruitment solution in every countries for migrant workers.
And every industry as well.
Yeah, that's another challenge.
Okay, so let's talk about the future outlook of We Are Caring, because I'm sure there's also other opportunities, right, for you to get into.
Yeah, there are. Okay, so if we look at Singapore, one opportunity is diversification. Obviously, the situation of migrant workers that have to pay multiple months of deduction to get a job is not specific to domestic workers. In the food and beverage industry, a lot of people are facing the same situation.
Yep.
The construction industry is even worse, right? With a lot of people from Bangladesh, India, who are facing very tough treatment at the moment. We believe that the recipe that we have can be applied to these industries, right? And so we're currently assessing what will be the first one, if it's construction worker, food and beverage, or caregivers. Right? Another direction is the international growth, right? And so I can say that the first and next country where we will operate is going to be Dubai, for sure, right? And we hope to open that by the end of the year 2022. And we are looking at some strategic considerations on should we have, a different kind of control on the partner agencies in the sourcing countries, right? So we currently have partnerships with agencies accredited by the embassies, and we impose an ethical way to make it work, right? But if you get one yourself, for example, right, that's easier to control, manage, and make sure that everything is fine, right? And so that's a discussion. The last evolution, so we don't talk about the mobile app, but of course making it kind of like a bigger platform, multiple jobs. The last evolution is that we are looking at the potential of blockchain to give more power to the workers, right? So not creating another currency that is worth zero, okay? So we will not do this, but we see at least two use cases at the moment that could be interesting for migrant workers. One is the idea that these migrant workers could be empowered and could have control over their own data. Currently, when you apply at We Are Caring, you give us a lot of data. Then you're going to work in Hong Kong, you're going to give a lot of data to an agency in Hong Kong and everywhere. Right? And then you lose control over this data. Right? And so you have something called self-sovereign identity or verifiable credentials that are kind of stored in the wallet, a bit like MyInfo and ThinkPass, where you can decide to share and to open the access to one or another organization, but you keep control over the data.
Is smart contract something that you'll be working on as well?
Yes, so we joined a blockchain accelerator called Celo Camp that builds on Celo blockchain, which is a Ethereum fork.
Fantastic! Wow.
And we're looking at a pilot on that. The second use case would be about sending money back home. You know that the remittance market is a very profitable market. A lot of middlemen get a lot of money for that, and we hope to really cut down by multiple times the cost of sending money back home.
You are probably the most forward-thinking helper agency that I know in the industry.
Yes, among the meta industry for sure. Now you have a lot of smart people who are really trying to innovate on remittance or on a lot of blockchain stuff.
Any advice for fellow or aspiring social entrepreneur who want to, seize market opportunities, but at the same time do good as well? Any advice for them?
Okay, I only run a social enterprise for 6 years, right? All right, a social impact business must be a profitable business. Okay, some start their journey by looking at what kind of grants, what kind of investment can I get, right? And they look at investment before they validate the product fit, right? I do believe that one reason why we got successful is that we got obsessed with customers, trying to build a product or a service that consumers will use and that customers will like and will pay for, right? And so don't hesitate to really fight to get your first customer, the first check, the first pay now, even before chasing any kind of money. Because even if you get some money, I saw some companies, there was an ethical recruitment company in the construction field. I will not name them, but they're out of the market, right? They raised $1.6 million and they did not provide a single job. Okay. So I think
they're probably very good at selling and pitching.
I think they got trapped by that, right? And trying, then you have a lot of cash, you make a big plan, but then you forget that, hey, what's the goal of all of this, right? It's to provide jobs. And so it's much better to avoid that. The other recommendation is that you're in Singapore. That's probably the best place to open a business whatsoever. You have a young population, and they're also very aware of social impact businesses. They want to, put the money where it's worth it. And so I think the ease to do a business and to open a business here is such that you should definitely do it. Whether you're a student, whether you're from the corporate world, just do it.
Fantastic advice. And lastly, where can people find We Are Caring online?
Thank you very much. That's super easy. So we have a website, wearecaring.com, where you can find everything about the service that we provide. You can download our mobile app, We Are Caring. And then you can also, shoot us an email and we'll be happy to start the conversation.
Okay, cool. We will leave the links in the description below or wherever that is. And thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. Learn so much about the industry, appreciate what you do for the migrant workers, and all the best to whatever that's ahead for We Are Caring.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. A last word. I want to thank also the DBS Foundation. They've helped us significantly with the mobile app project and with the next steps. So shout out to them.
Fantastic. And, shout out DBS.
And I wish a nice day to everybody.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. If you have enjoyed our conversation with David and want to learn more about the social impact space, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel on all platforms that this podcast is on so that we can deliver new content to you. Epic Nation is a passion project created by the team at Epic Dialogue, a Singapore-based marketing agency that helps change-making businesses create social impact through our sustainability branding, communications, and digital marketing solutions.